There's Paulina.
Hey, there's
awesome.
Paulina.
Awesome.
Hello.
Hello. All right, folks.
All right,
it being
folks,
exactly,
6 o'clock
Yelm Prairie time,
we'll
go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to the City Council meeting of November 24th, 2020. We will start our meeting as we usually do with a salute to the flag. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If the city clerk, the Honorable Lori Lucas, will take the roll, please.
Councilmember James Blair.
Here.
Councilmember Molly Carmody. Councilmember E.J. Curry.
Here.
Councilmember Ted Stillwell.
Here.
Councilmember Tracy Wood.
Here.
Councilmember Joe DePinto.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Kaminsky.
Here.
Mayor J.W. Foster.
Here, and I see that Molly is joining us. If you want to get her on the record, please.
Councilmember Molly Carmody.
Oh, here.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So I know we do have a request for an agenda addition. I think Joe, you're going to do that.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just like to move to add under new business a discussion on EDC contracts. Economic development. Third City EDC contracts.
So a motion to approve the agenda. That was a second by Tad, I believe. Councilmember Stillwell. All in favor?
Aye.
Got you all. Thank you, Paulina. Show the new business item C will be a discussion about the EDC. Very good. This is the time that we look forward to the most when we have a student of the month, as we do. We're so glad that school is back in session, even differently than it normally is. And I'm really glad that Paulina was able to demonstrate her high IT skills in joining us this evening. So as everybody knows on the council, but for anybody watching, understand that the Yelm Community Schools, with the help of the Rotary Club of Yelm and some community partners I'll list here at the end, along with the city of Yelm, the school selects a student of the month based on nominations by their teachers and counselors and staff. And for the month of October, they brought Paulina Flores Hernandez to our attention. And this is what they say about Paulina. Try not to smile, Paulina. Paulina is every teacher's dream. She's a hard worker and strives for academic excellence. She plays an active role in supporting her family, is responsible enough to hold a job outside of school to pay for the college and high school credits, which also shows her determination and drive, and helps lead the Yelm High School Latinx Club. Paulina is also very friendly and always willing to help her peers and teachers. Over the last few months, Paulina has volunteered after school to help several native Spanish speakers communicate with their teachers and help tutor students in both ability to communicate and content area classes. She doesn't just do her work, but goes out of her way to help others find success. She's a leader in the YHS Latinx Club, tutors peers in both English and Spanish, and is involved in church activities where she mentors younger students, participates in cultural dancing, helps put on festivals, and more. She also plays volleyball, translates for our Latin community, and participates in leadership activities during the summer. Her goal is to become a kindergarten teacher, and we have no doubt that this hardworking young lady with a huge heart will succeed. Congratulations to Paulina. Now, along with those accolades, Paulina, we are going to get this plaque to you. I don't know if can you see that very well? Get that right up there. And I don't know if you knew this, Paulina, but you also get a number of tokens of appreciation from our community partners, totaling about some $300 worth of tokens. That's pretty nice. So Ken McCulloch, American Family Insurance, Masonry Cafe, Olympia Fed, Edward Jones, Financial Advisor, Pam Ferris, Pizza La Gitana, Scotty Brown of Windermere, the Shiplap Shop, Walmart, Yelm Food Co-op, and the Grocery Outlet, Tracy's favorite place. So is there anything that you'd like to say to council tonight, Paulina?
I do. I would like to say thank you so much for honoring me. I appreciate everything that this community has done to help, and I appreciate every single one of you for taking the time and congratulating me, and I hope to bring more success to the community.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Paulina. Now you are welcome to stay and enjoy a rousing city council meeting, or you can get back to work. I'm sure you have a few things on your plate.
Okay, thank you guys so much for having me.
You're welcome. All right, this is the point of the meeting where we invite the public who are attending to make a comment. We have received no written comments, but we do have some citizens in attendance. If they would like to address the council, the way this works is they can address the council now on any matter that's not otherwise on the agenda, or they could wait to address some particular item that is on the agenda. And we do have a public hearing today relevant to the budget, so they could also chime in there. So is there anyone from the attendees who would like to address council tonight? I'll wait a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to figure out how to raise your hand, or can you unmute them all, Grant, so that they could chime up?
Done, except for Chief.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Okay,
Bethany Ryan.
Mrs. Bethany Ryan, please address the council. You have about 3 minutes, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to speak tonight about the mayor's Facebook post that he put on his Mayor of Yelm page. He directly spoke to the people, and he was deleting people that he didn't agree with, their comments. He directly deleted my comment, which was against his post about the citywide mask. The citywide mask violates people's rights, and it goes against the United States Constitution. Marbury versus Madison from 1803, write that down, please. Marbury versus Madison, 1803. It says any law that's passed directly violating any United States Constitution is null and void. You cannot make people wear a mask in this city, and people need to stand up for their rights and talk to the mayor and tell him what he's doing on his Facebook page is not a sitting mayor that has any respect for this whole town. When you delete our comments, you are spitting on the soldiers that died for our freedoms. And I think you should be awfully ashamed of yourself for the way that you behaved on your Mayor of Yelm Facebook page. We are the people of the United States of America, and we elected you to speak for us. And once you spit in our face like that, we get upset. We're going to remove you from your mayor's seat. And I would like to call upon the council that they need to bring a motion tonight to remove him from his seat of his mayor's seat. You figure out what to do to get this man out of office, because he does not to be deserving of a mayor's seat with the way that he's treated our citizens. And all you guys that are sitting around him cheering him on need to be reminded who voted for you, because we are not going to vote for you if you stand behind this mayor, you need to remember that the people are in charge of you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Bethany, for attending tonight and for your comments to council. Are there any other members of the community who would like to address council tonight? Councilmember Blair?
As far as the specifics into all of it, I won't go into that here. But I do believe you should respond to deleting people's comments, because even if, and I understand your views on it, and a lot of them, it's not that I disagree with it. But when it comes down to it, you can't delete comments, especially constituents. So I think you should probably respond to that.
Okay, well, thank you for the question, James. I'll just tell you this, and you can challenge this in court or wherever you'd like to. But the J.W. Foster Mayor of Yelm Facebook page is managed by myself, and it is not affiliated with the city of Yelm. You can see that quite clearly posted on that Facebook page, and I cleared that with the PDC after I turned it away from a campaign page. So it has no affiliation with the city, and I treat it as a personal page where I talk about things that I do as mayor. That's my statement on that, and if people want to challenge that, there's various avenues that they could take to do that, and that's all I have to say about that tonight. Councilmember DePino?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to be clear, that is not an official J.W. Foster, Mayor of Yelm, is not an official City of Yelm page, and is it a campaign or is it a personal page?
It is a personal page. It's not a campaign page or a City of Yelm managed page, and it says that quite clearly on the section where it talks about transparency.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Okay, that takes us from public comment to the consent agenda, which is the minutes from the previous meetings and the financial report and vouchers. So we usually just approve that by motion.
I move we approve tonight's consent agenda.
Second.
And a reminder, folks, that, and I'm going to do better about doing roll call votes too. We need to identify ourselves verbally so that Lori can track this. Usually she can catch it, but we just want to make sure. So that was a motion by?
Councilmember Wood.
Seconded by?
James Blair or EJ.
Well, pretty much all of you. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wood.
Thank you, Tracy. That was a unanimous vote to accept the consent agenda. We're rocking.
Point of order, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just to your point too, could you just always call for if there's any no votes?
I certainly will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
So that takes us to the new business. We have ordinance 1070 about water consumption, and we're really thrilled to have Cody Colt here to present this.
Good evening, Council Mayor. Can everybody hear me okay? Awesome. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. You should see water rates 2021. Okay, yeah, awesome. So obviously, you guys have seen the rate proposal. It's in your packet. This is the 5th time the Public Works Committee has seen it. The 4th time the council has seen these rates. So you guys see this all the time. So I'm going to keep this super brief and then just kind of let you go into questions, because that's pretty much what I want to do, is address any questions you might have. So kind of how we got here, just a really brief history, is in 2017, council approved water rate increases through 2020. And those are based on that 2010 water systems plan. So the plan we were shown that required, certain buildings to be built, certain structures to be built, wells and reservoirs to be built in order to comply with what we needed for up the next 20 years. In 2018, that system was kind of revisited, not fully adopted yet, but it has new requirements in there, different things we need. And based on those, that's how we kind of got to this point where we've made these water rates adjustments up to this point. And if water rates aren't adopted, if council doesn't adopt a new water rate system, the water rates will automatically increase in 2021 based on CPI. So this is kind of the step council has decided to take and the Public Works Committee has decided to put forward, is instead of having those rates increase in 2021. The adjustment. So I just kind of want to tell you how we got to right here, this moment where you guys are looking at this ordinance. So it all started when Mayor Foster initiated a deep look into water rates in 2020. When I came on as Public Works Director, Mayor had requested that, we do a deep dive and look at those water rates along with that summer consumption. We see if there's any help or relief we can do. That resulted in the resolution you guys passed that lowered water rates temporarily to provide relief for the summer. And the Public Works Committee started work at that point. The Public Works Committee has met several times. We've talked about these rates several times. They've seen the numbers. We've done adjustments. The only adjustment from the last number you've seen is we lowered the commercial usage based on Councilmember Wood and Public Work Committee's advice. We lowered the commercial consumption back to what it is this year. So it won't be going up as it was in that first proposal. And then also, just so I know this is a big worries question I've been asked a lot, and I'm sure Council you're being asked too, is how can this happen? How can we do this and still fulfill our need to keep our reserve up and still build the things we need to build? And I mentioned it several times, the maintenance that our system has been doing, how well the Southwest Well is doing has provided a lot of opportunities for us for savings. And those savings we can now pass on to the ratepayer to be able to keep our revenues what they need to be and have our required reserve of 6 months in the water fund, which we will do in the next budget cycle, as you've seen. So, any questions? Awesome. If there are no questions, you guys, the ordinance is in front of you and move with it as you will or like.
The question for council would be to approve ordinance 1070.
I move we approve ordinance number 1070.
Said Council Member Tracy Wood.
Said Council Member Tracy Wood.
Seconded
By Councilwoman Curry.
by Councilmember Curry. Is there any questions? Councilmember DePino?
Thank you, Mayor. No questions. I just want to make comment that this has been vested through the council multiple times now, including the mayor, Public Works Committee, and the full entire council. We took back an amendment by Councilmember Wood, not necessarily an amendment, but changed it up a little bit. I don't think we actually amended anything, but we changed it up. It was a great point that we made regarding businesses. It went up slightly, took that out. As Cody mentioned, I think this is a good win-win for the city and for the people of Yelm, more importantly.
Councilmember Carmody, did you have your hand up? Oh, okay. Any other questions about the motion?
I do see a question from Miss Bethany Ryan on the all panelists. If the Public Works Committee wants to address that.
So you may be able to see that on the chat. I'll read Ms. Ryan's comment. I want to see the 2-tier rates going lower than what you're projecting for this proposal. The residents deserve to pay an appropriate amount that doesn't bankrupt us. Councilmember Blair?
Hi, Bethany. I'm not actually on the committee that put this together, but I will say, in a perfect world, I'd love to see the water rates be the same as if you had your own well. But unfortunately, it's not the reality. But this is, at best, it's lower than where we were. A lot of people are not going to see those huge bills they did in the past. And while it may not be ideal, I think that it not only puts the city on the track it needs to be, but it also provides somewhat kind of a relief without totally gouging everyone like what it would happen if we don't do anything. Because if we don't do anything, then you're looking at the automatic increases every year. And those are a lot worse than I think any of us even realized what we were doing. Well, I wasn't on council at that time, but I get it. And it's not great. It's not perfect. It's not the best of what we all want to see. But at the same time, when we've got $20+ million to take care of, we have to kind of stare down the barrel of reality at the same time.
Thank you. Councilmember DePino?
Thank you, Mayor. Bethany, thank you for your question or comment. And I agree, and kind of with what Councilmember Blair just kind of talked about. it's what we can do at this moment. It's a step in the right direction. It's not perfect. I much rather would have seen a bigger amount discounted to the people of Yelm and lowered a little bit lower, but the way that our revenue situation is right now, I think that's what we can do. And I mean, I sit on the Public Works Committee, and we talked about this and discussed it at different rates. What if we did this? What if we did that? And the truth of the matter is, this is about as low as we can go without causing some serious financial strain on the city. This is the first time I think that the city has actually ever lowered water rates. So that in itself is a huge step in the right direction, I believe. I wish it was lower too, but I honestly, you know me, Bethany, we've had our discussions too, and I'm all for lower water rates, and this is a great first step. I think this is a good win for the people of Yelm.
Any other questions from council? I will call for the aye votes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Cody. Thank you to the Public Works Committee for your work on this.
Thank you, council.
Okay, we will go to our new business B, which is the biennial budget. At this time, I will open the public hearing on the biennial budget at 6:21. I will have a presentation from Finance Director McDonald. And you'll need to mute yourself, unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mayor Foster. This is our third and final public hearing on the budget. And like the previous meetings, this is just informational. We're not asking you to take any action at this time. We're just going over, highlighting today some of the changes that have happened since we presented the budget. The first public hearing, we talked about the revenues. In the second, we kind of focused on the expenditures, and now we're going to talk about things that have developed since we did that original budget. So just kind of a high overview, the total for the city of Yelm, the total revenue that we're expecting to get this coming year is $72.5 million. And the total expenditure appropriations is $80.75 million, which we expect to have an ending fund balance of 26 million. This is just a highlight of how our expenditures are spent. You can see that the bulk is in the capital projects, and that is true for the changes as well. In the general fund, I reduced the property tax by $249. I know that seems trivial, but I wanted to match the ad valorem that we did 2 weeks ago. I also needed to add a finance department consult and the Forecast 5 software. We also had received a contract change late in the budget process, and so it wasn't included in the original budget, but it is included as a change. Yes, Jim?
What's the financial or the finance department consultant? What do they do? And who was it?
So the finance consultant, her name is Sandy, and she helps me out because I'm a little bit new in this. So she's a person to bounce things off of and get advice when I need it. Okay. So this is the budget as presented with the general revenue and expenses. And you can see that after the change summary, there is a small gap in revenues being less than expenditures going forward. And that gap really I'll come back to that. And so this is the same information, but a different slide, and it has the addition of the fund balance. You can see that the original fund had 1.1 million, which is within the range of the 15% that we try and keep for a minimum reserve. if we were to drop down, we would just drop down to just over 1 million, which is below the 15% minimum reserve. It's still a balanced budget. It's just not meeting that 15% minimum. The utility funds, when we were doing the budget, I accidentally overwrote the standby pay when I was adjusting departments' salaries for possible COLA. So I needed to add that back in. And then there is a $2,700,000 transfer out for water main replacements and the water facility. Similarly, in the sewer utility fund, I needed to add back in the standby pay, and there is a $2.6 million transfer out for the wastewater reclamation facility. And the capital improvement funds, all of them, Pat has gone through and updated his costs. And so for the street and construction, the updated cost estimates for sidewalks and for the Mossman project have an overall net effect that it decreased the fund balance by $201,000. But it still has a pretty healthy fund balance of $494,000. Then the water capital improvement, you see that we have the 2.7 million coming in, and then we have updated costs for the water improvements and the water facility. And the net effect for that fund is a decrease in the fund balance of $138,000. Similarly, in the capital improvement fund, we had the transfer in, but also we looked at what we expect to spend this year, and it was less than we had thought we were going to spend when we initially did the budget back in August. And so we actually have about $1 million more in the beginning fund balance than we anticipated. And so overall, all the changes to the sewer capital fund, which include Cochran Park and the collection systems and the wastewater reclamation facility, it was just a $21,000 decrease in the fund balance. Yes, Joe?
Thanks, Heidi. Who or what account do we get that transfer in from, or is it multiple accounts?
So this one came directly from the sewer fund, and the water one came from the water funds. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and so our path forward is really, we have one more study session left to go over everything. And we continue to have deliberations. Then on December 8th, hopefully we'll adopt the budget. December 8th is the only business meeting in December. And so if we don't adopt it and we still are continuing to work on it, we'll need to schedule additional meetings for that. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, we had our finance committee yesterday, and we had a really good finance committee meeting, and we went over the all the requests that have been submitted, and we set that information out this morning. And so I don't know if Molly or James or Terry, if you want to touch on that real quick, or
Me?
anybody, or I'm just throwing it out there. Molly, are you gonna?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about it really briefly. We went over 3 different proposals from 3 different council members, namely Terry, Joe, and me. Terry's was approved for $20,000 for beautification of the city in downtown Yelm. Mine was rejected because I didn't provide enough information, and it's just not economically feasible right now. And the same with Joe DePinto's, just not feasible right now. If anybody has any questions, they can address us, later on after the meeting, but it's really straightforward. We just can't afford to make any huge moves right now because of COVID. We may be okay this year, but we have no idea where we're going to be next year. And we just don't want to take a chance in going underwater on our budget. So, hopefully we can readdress both Joe's and my proposals next year or the following year after that. But for now, it just can't happen. So.
I saw Councilmember DePino first and then Blair.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. One of the things I noticed that you agreed upon with some of my budget amendment was the reduction of the library expense, operating and the operating costs of that. I noticed there was an increase in the mayor's proposal to that budget by a significant amount, and the finance committee had said something about lowering that amount. Actually, could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so what we did was apparently the library actually runs over its budgeted amount pretty much every year. And so the mayor actually put in extra money for to account for the overruns that the library incurs every year. And we said, no, that's, the library needs to stay within its budget. So we're going to cut that down. But obviously if the library cannot stay within the limits that we set it, then we'll revisit it. But we didn't think that the library should get the full amount that the increase was.
Thank you. And is that going towards Terry's benches then?
I'm not sure where Terry's came from. I think there was money in the general fund. You'd have to probably talk to Heidi about that.
Sure, Heidi, same question. Where's the extra money go towards?
Terry's request was fulfilled in one-time money, which is money that's basically the beginning fund balance from the previous budget period that wasn't spent. And so we had money to do that in the municipal building fund.
Councilmember Blair.
Councilmember DePinto, so in reference to your proposal, I just want to say the biggest part of it was the cuts in the legal department. And when we went over those, those were so drastic that it just, frankly, it's not possible. And two, to answer your question regarding the library, so in the proposed budget, it was 50,000. Previously, it was 25. But as we've found out, a lot of times there were some things that would happen on top of the HOA fees that we have for there. And that's why we would have to amend the budget quite a bit. And that's why there was an extra requested. I don't think any of us felt that it should be another 25,000 budgeted. But I think what we agreed to was we're going to wait and figure out what the actuals were. So what it actually was over by, like over the last 5 years. And once we kind of figure that out, then put an actual recommendation of what that should be set at. And then also to answer the question, did that money go towards the benches? No, anything, as from my understanding, anything that would be cut out of that wasn't going to go to anything.
Yeah, James is right.
It would just be taken out of the expenditures.
Councilmember DePino.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Carmody and Blair. That good explanation on those. The one question I do have, though, that it kind of still bugged me a little bit was regarding the legal side. And I get, especially for the legal case with I forget what it is, but basically forcing us to increase the budget on that. And I can understand that. But regarding the increase for, I think it was Brent Dilley's contract for prosecuting services, I noticed in the thing it said that it's a significant, it's like $15,000 or $20,000 extra or something this year. And I think the explanation behind that I saw on the email was that that's an appropriate amount.
No.
Oh, it's not?
No. Can I explain?
Yeah, please.
That? What's going
Please.
on there? Okay, so.
Okay, excuse me. Hold on. I'd just like to follow our process. I saw Councilmember Blair put his hand up first, so I'll let him defer to you, Molly, if you'd like, but I want to give him the opportunity to speak first.
Molly's the expert here on that part, so I'm gonna let her do it.
Fair enough. Go ahead, Molly.
Okay, so basically, Mr. Dilley was asking for two separate sections, an increase in two separate sections, one for the the criminal division of the prosecution for the criminal division and the civil division. So there, he divided it up into two different ways. The criminal, he has been billing at a flat rate. God, I think it's 35,000. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's been 35,000 for the last several years. And he wanted to increase it to 52,000, which is roughly a 33% increase. And then he wanted to increase his civil rate from 205 to 225, and then his paralegals rate from 150 to 195. And we thought, you know, those are just obscene numbers, especially right now. We don't mind increasing the civil rate from 205 to 225 because that's standard rates here in the South Puget Sound. The 195 for the paralegal is I don't believe that that's standard. Those are more in line with Seattle prices. So we're going to have to look into those to this paralegal rates especially. So we approved the 205 to 225 an hour rate for him only, not the paralegal and not the criminal part of it, not the 35,000 to 52,000. That's a 33% increase. And to ask for a 33% increase in a COVID year, it's just, we just can't do it. And you know, frankly, it's a little rude. So we're going to ask him to go back and you know, we're going to look at the contracts and, you know, see what is going on there. So yeah, we only approved a very small part, but we did not approve his entire budget increase request.
Go ahead, Councilmember DePino.
Thank you, Mayor. Another good explanation. Thank you, Councilmember Carmody. One last thing. Do you know if this is for the mayor or for you? Do you know if that contract is an open contract or is it like an open bid every year that we allow other people to come in and compete?
So yes, I can answer that question. It is currently an open-ended contract. The city can terminate at any time, but as I suggested yesterday during the meeting, I would rather see this be a periodic contract. Like every 4 years, we renew, revisit, and, you know, ask for new requests for bids from other attorneys in the area, just so that we know that we're getting, you know, good legal representation at the best price. There's nothing wrong with Mr. Dilly's legal representation. He's a very good attorney, but it's only fair to put it out to the public on a regular basis like we do with all of our other contracts. So we're talking about that as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Good answers.
Are there any questions from the attendees tonight in regard to the budget as we continue with our public hearing? Seeing none. Councilmember Blair.
Thank you. Councilmember DePinto, there was one part that we didn't talk about, and I think a lot of us were confused on. There was the part regarding executive travel and training, and a lot of us, well, I think you and I believe Molly felt the same thing, that we thought that was travel expenses for the mayor and city administrator. And after talking with Michael yesterday during the finance committee meeting, what that actually is there's a few different trainings they want to do for the department heads, which wouldn't fall under each department's budget. And that's why it's kind of looped in there, but the best way is like it what's the word I'm looking for? Michael, you want to help me out here?
I'll give you all the same short snippet that I shared with Councilmember Blair and the rest of the finance committee. Is one of the things that happened at our leadership meeting where we brought the management team together and we looked at mission, vision, values, goals, the big rocks, everything that is, you know, really the most overarching priorities of the organization. One of the ideas that came out of that was from one of our department heads. I think it was Chief Stansel, maybe Cody. But they said, gosh, this is so great to all come together as a team. Wouldn't it be great if we all had similar training, that we went through essentially leadership management training to really continue to improve the skills that the managers and the supervisors have, and do so together as a unit, so that there's more continuity in the approach and the service that we're providing, aiming towards our goal of being a best run government. There's also training and resources for specifically human resources personnel to play both offense and defense to help prevent lawsuits that can be very expensive and help safeguard the city, as well as to improve and provide specific training for our customer service and our permitting team, who are on the front lines of all the requests that we anticipate coming in when we get water rights and when we work on the habitat conservation plan. Those builders that come in and those developers and those businesses, we want to make sure that we're operating in a unified, systematic manner to support economic growth. And so really 3 key focus areas of that. Is that get at what you were speaking to, Councilmember Blair?
Thank you.
So does that account for what is it, 11,000 over the last year of training?
Yes.
So there was that proposed cut in there. And I just wanted to make sure that we were all clear that wasn't meant as an increase for like travel expenses for the mayor and city administrator, like I think a lot of us thought it was. And also with that, considering it's an important thing, but as far as I think what we discussed yesterday, the training is important, and we all, after learning what it was and what it was all about, I think it's something we should do, but also it's one of the first things that's going to be on the chopping block if we have to make cuts.
Right.
Okay. Really good questions. Very much appreciate the work that the management team, department heads, and particularly Heidi, Michael, the finance committee did on analyzing and vetting these different amendments and these adjustments as they came in. It still allows us to provide the council with a balanced budget that's still above our policy mandated cap or floor of 15%, and should give us a good path forward into the next biennium. So if there are no more questions, final points of interest from Heidi or Michael, I will close the public hearing at 6:43 p.m. And that was our final public hearing on the budget. What's left to council is an ordinance, 1071, that adopts the biennial budget. Technically, you could make a motion to approve that tonight, but we do have another study session scheduled for the 1st, and then it will come up again as an action item on the 8th, hopefully with council having had enough information to take action on that budget. Councilmember Blair?
I'm not sure if it's necessary, but would I move that we put this out to the next?
You don't need to.
Oh, we don't need to. Okay.
No, I'm just saying that you do have the option of acting on the motion, acting on the ordinance now, but what we have scheduled is for you to actually take action on it on the 8th.
Okay.
All right, very good. So that takes us through the budget. We now go to item C, which you'll remember was put on the agenda just today. And this is just an opportunity to discuss our relationship with the Thurston County Economic Development Council. I met today with council members DePino and Stillwell, who've both been representatives to the EDC over the past 3-4 years, and with Michael Graham. We just wanted to have a discussion with folks tonight to see what your interest is in the EDC. And I think maybe I'll have Councilmember Stillwell speak to this issue first, and then Councilmember DePino, and see if there's any questions from council for them.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, we just had a quick discussion today. I sat on the Thurston County Economic Development Board for about 4 years, 4 years, I guess. And while it's a great organization, I wondered for quite some time what they did exactly, because I noticed that they get a lot of requests for business placement and sort of put it out for bid to these companies like location finders and whatnot. And I never, one time I saw Yelm, even in the running. Actually, we were the only city in the running for the particular business, which is one that we definitely would not have wanted in our area, I guess, anyhow. But I just feel like over these years, while they do a tremendous amount of stuff for the community and the regional partnerships, I'm just kind of wondering if it's worth the money to actually continue to belong to this organization. So we just sort of talked about it, wondering everybody's opinions, because it is in the budget. It's $6,000 a year. I mean, I think they do a lot of great work. Councilmember DePino and I both think they do a huge amount of good things. So it's not a matter of them not doing great things. It's just a value added proposition to me for the city of Yelm.
I think I'm up.
Councilmember Pino, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and I share a lot of the concerns Councilmember Stillwell just showed. You know, I sometimes wonder about some of our partnerships, what we're getting in return and all that. I do believe that this is a valuable relationship that we cultivated over a long time. Yelm is, you know, I besides the Walmart was huge for us back in the day, and today especially is one of our biggest revenue generators, if not the biggest. And we got that because of the EDC reaching out to Walmart and scouting them and actually bringing them out here. So, I mean, they do bring, it might not seem like they're doing a lot, but we're not really developing right now. And that's, I think, the biggest reason you're seeing a lack of direction by them. You know, we ask for results from the EDC, but we don't say, this is what we want. You know, this is what can you work on this project? We don't say, can we work on this industrial park? You know, our only industrial park in Yelm. We want to cultivate this or do that. We're not doing that to them. So it's very unclear for the EDC to know what to do. But I tell you what, as soon as that those water rights come through and we start seeing the area around Walmart develop, because I guarantee you, mark my words, all that area around there, it's going to be commercial. And when we're asking for big box stores to come out like Costco or Lowe's or Home Depot or some of those stores that generate millions upon millions of dollars and millions in tax dollar revenue, that's where they come into play. And that's, you know, you only need them one time when you bring them out. When you bring a Walmart out, that was a game changer for Yelm. That really, you know, that gave us the ability to pay for a lot of services that we didn't already have. When we're considering in the future, when we get a Lowe's or a Costco, those are millions of dollars that we're going to add to our general fund that we don't have right now. Those are police officers. Those are new public works officers, public workers, public, you know what I'm saying? I don't know why I'm tugging that on it. Public works workers. And instead of raising taxes, we can generate revenue from businesses. I mean, you guys remember the slide a few weeks ago from Grant, you know, comparing how many houses have to be built in order to equal a big box store, generate that kind of sales revenue. It's a lot. And so I personally would rather see expanding our business climate and attracting those big box stores or those big businesses to Yelm that we necessarily can't do by ourselves. And we can go to conferences and expos and all that crap, but excuse me, and all that stuff, but it's not going to matter. You know, we're not experts on that. We don't have an EDC executive director on our behalf hollering at these people trying to get them out to Yelm. They have the expertise, they have the knowledge, the experience. And that's just that. I got sent over today from Michael Cade, the executive director. You know, we're asking about what kind of return we're getting. We're getting $553,000 this year in return for Yelm businesses. That's $256,000 in childcare for our residents here in Yelm, $50,000 in ag and ag producers, nonprofits, another $50,000, retail restaurants, $140,000, micro business grants, $57,000. And then there's likely another $75,000 to be added to this list in the next couple of weeks here. So yeah, the relation, they bring a lot to the table. And if we want to be some big players in Thurston County, and what, we're the fourth biggest city or so in Thurston County, you know, sometimes you got to pay to play. Sometimes you got to be at that seat at the table to have these conversations. And by the way, we are the lowest of the municipalities. The other places are paying upwards of $50,000 a year. Tenino wants to come on, and they will be actually coming on here shortly. They're going to replace Yelm because we haven't been paying, you know, or we haven't had a contract this year. We were late last year. We paid in August. This year we haven't paid them a penny. You know, I think we're the bad players in this relationship, not the EDC. But we're going to be asked to leave the EDC here coming up tomorrow, unless we have a certain direction that we could either say we're going to be on this 100%. And I think it's like $6,000 a year that we're paying. They're not even asking us to pay this year's. They're waiving that fee, and they're saying next year, you know, make sure that you're paying it and we have a good contract in place. But I just can't stress enough the relationship and the importance of it. And I would urge council to recognize that.
Councilmember Blair.
I appreciate everything you both said, and I get both of your perspectives on it. My question is, and goes to Joe, you bring up Lowe's and Home Depot and that kind of stuff. I think that's specifically, that's a question, do we want Lowe's or Home Depot? Because I guarantee you, Lowe's or Home Depot comes in, there goes Mountain Lumber. Gone. Guaranteed. Now, on top of that, my question would be, what about more industrial type business? Can Thurston EDC help with that? More rather than big box retail? Like, I think a lot of the reason why people love it out here is that we don't have all that. It's more, you have that small town feel, but you have more people here at the same time. And I think if we went after things like Lowe's and Home Depot and Best Buy, that type of stuff, and flooded that all into that industrial area, then you no longer have your small town. You have a DuPont. And DuPont's a great place, but does Yelm want to be Yelm, or does Yelm want to be DuPont? You know what I mean? If Thurston EDC, if our relationship with them focused more on an industrial, acquiring industrial type business into our area, then it's worth it to me, because that brings in your revenue for the city, but mainly it's jobs and not minimum wage jobs. So if Thurston EDC, if we could have the relationship with them that more attracts that type of business, then yeah, I think we should stay in it. If our main focus is Best Buy and Home Depot, I don't think that's the right route that this city would want.
Councilmember Carmody.
Thanks. Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Blair. We're a small town, and if we bring in a Lowe's or a Home Depot, it's going to destroy Mountain Lumber Hardware, they've been a fixture in our community for a really long time. You know, I would rather see the EDC work towards not, you know, national chain stores like Applebee's or Red Robin or Home Depot or, you know, Kohl's or Sears or whatever, but work towards finding unique, individual, independent organizations that would want to come to some place like Yelm. The problem with an industrial company is that the transportation to the highway is just terrible. We all know that. I mean, and even with a bypass coming, those roads are single lane highways. You know, you got 507, 510, and the road out from Roy. Those are all single lane. They all get backed up when accidents happen on I-5, and any industrial company is not going to want to have to deal with, you know, driving their huge semis on those single lane highways. I really think that we need to start looking away from traditional industrial companies and maybe looking more towards cyber companies. There's a lot of cyber industry out there now that doesn't require huge trucks and huge transportation capacity. I'd rather see EDC help us, increase our bandwidth, our fiber optic, our stuff like that, because that brings in a lot of money to Yelm that isn't necessarily industrial. And those are high paying jobs, and, it will create Yelm as a center, not just a bedroom community of these other larger cities, which is really what we're becoming at this point. So I agree with James. I don't want a Home Depot or a Kohl's, here in Yelm. I don't think it's appropriate. We're a small town. Let's get the EDC to really look for what we want. And if they can't do that, then I don't know, what the value is. If they're not going to look for what we want in our city, let's rethink it.
So let me break in here. This is a really great discussion. I'm so glad that Tad and Joe wanted to talk about this today. And it obviously begs a much larger discussion from the council, perhaps at a not too distant study session where we could spend a considerable time talking about what is the economic future of the city. What do we want it to look like? And mind you, things change over 20 years, because those of you who lived here then will remember that when Walmart was coming to town, it initiated the largest town hall ever. And many people were against that, saying it was going to kill local business. And yet I'll challenge that it hasn't killed any local businesses. In fact, it's probably brought more business to town as an anchor store. But that is part of the larger discussion. We're not the Yelm we were in 1996 when I moved here, and we will be a different town in 20 years because of the water rights that Joe mentions. And we can't have any development out there by Walmart unless we have a habitat conservation plan to allow them to mitigate for the take of the gophers. So the question before council this evening, I'll get back to you, Joe and Tad, just a sec. The question really for council tonight is the EDC is basically disinviting us from a board seat at the moment, unless we come back to them and say we would still like to be partners with you. And then I think, Joe, your feedback from them was that they would still grudgingly or happily rather consider taking us back onto the table. They will not take us back on at this point. Okay. But we can continue to work with them, and then perhaps in the future find a way to work with the EDC to get those deliverables that you were just asking about, as far as industrial versus commercial and so forth. So that's what we're sort of looking for, the thumbs up tonight on, not an official vote. They're taking the vote, not us. But we want sort of your opinion on whether we should try to continue a relationship with the EDC. And I'll go first with Tad and then over to Joe.
I think that, I mean, Joe, you're right. I think if we continue the relationship, if we can, get back together, we need to be really clear and concise. Just like I've heard, we've talked about our legislative agenda. We need to be like, all right, we want to look for these, like Molly said, tech, we have a great area for that. We could, they could build office space, whatever it is. But maybe we have kind of not been clear in that. And, maybe that's a game changer, and maybe that's what we haven't done. So they've looked for the big industrial complex, but we're not that. We're just not set up for it. So, I would totally, if we could get clear direction and revisit it, that's, probably more appropriate.
Councilmember DePino?
Thank you, Mayor. So I get your concerns. Councilmember Blair, Carmody, Stillwell, I get them all. I mean, I'm taking notes here as you're talking. Regarding, do we want a Lowe's or Home Depot from Councilmember Blair, focus on the more industrial? They can do that. If that's, and that's, like the mayor said, that's a conversation we need to have, but they haven't had that direction from us. My personal preference, I do like a lot of bigger businesses that can generate a lot of revenue for the city. And the biggest reason, not because I want to see this town get all huge or anything, but I just don't want to see pay higher water rates. I don't want to pay, high taxes in Yelm. I want someone, I'd rather have a business pay for it than a private citizen, just personally. But I mean, that's another discussion we can have though. To Councilmember Carmody's point about independent businesses and high-tech jobs, yeah, absolutely, we can do that. I personally would love to see the industrial park that we have developed, and if we can get high-tech jobs there rather than dirty businesses, 100% I'm behind that, 100%. And I think the EDC can help us with that as well. If that's what we want to do, they will absolutely do that. A good example is Tenino. City Tenino had a very clear direction to them that they wanted to develop an agricultural park, and that's what they did. They now have a ton of money from the state, which the EDC and from the EDC to help run that park because of the expertise from the EDC, because of the lobbying efforts from the city of Tenino. They got all that stuff. So they were very clear and direct in what they wanted, and they asked and they shall receive. That's what they got. So I think as long as we're clear, we can absolutely do this. And to Councilmember Stillwell's part about wanting to have some clarity for this if we move forward, I'm all with you on it. Let's do that. My suggestion to the council, and it's just me, I think this is an important relationship that we do have with EDC. We can choose at this point to not fight this and to vacate. Michael K did tell me though that we are going to lose our seat either way to City of Tenino. They are taking over for us. But there are a couple extra seats that he can discretionarily give out on approval from the board, of course. But he thinks that they would approve it if we want to maintain that seat. We just have to have the intent. And I would ask that the council would consider entertaining an actual motion to support, and simple as that, to support the EDC in our current relationship. And we can work out the details with them. And that would be enough, I believe. I'll call them right after this meeting to move forward with us in our current relationship. Just lastly on it though, I would suggest that we do add this, and I know we already have a busy schedule, an agenda for our upcoming study session in December, but I believe already on there is the discussion regarding our legislative agenda. Why not add tack on a few more minutes and put up our economic, some of our goals that we want to see, some of the deliverables that we want to see from the EDC. I think kill two birds with one stone right there.
Councilmember Stillwell?
Well, I guess, that may change. That definitely changes my opinion. I mean, I'm not willing to be bullied, or we're going to give your seat away. We'll ask for, that does change my opinion. So I think that they're value added, but if they're going to try to sort of force a hand, then they can fill those extra seats with what they wish. That's all I got.
Councilmember Kaminsky?
Just my general overview is that we kind of dropped the ball on this, and I certainly would not give up our relationship with them until we really rebooted what we wanted. I think, as Joe said, it's a valuable place to be. So I would definitely move to continue with that until we decide we don't want to.
And Joe, before I get back here, I do want to give an opportunity for council members Curry and Wood to weigh in if they have any opinion or comments or questions. We'll go with Tracy first.
My question would be in reference to the EDC. We're talking about the Thurston County Economic Development Council, correct?
Yes.
Whether we are a member as Yelm, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that we would still be covered in the aspect that we are in Thurston County. I guess my question would be if because I'm feeling a little bit pressured on this, and I just don't understand the big pressure behind it. Either we're getting involved with or we're going to remain involved with them, or we're not. I don't see why. I'm feeling like we have to act right now, or else we're gonna lose something. And it feels like dealing with my timeshare company, and it's a little uncomfortable. It just seems that they're going to be working with us regardless. In person, on a business level, I can tell you, EDC's, regardless of the situation with the Yelm, the EDC's working with us with the businesses here in Yelm. In fact, they seem to be at this moment in time the only ones working with the businesses in Yelm when it comes to any sort of relief with the present situation taking place. But with that being said, I'm just not sure if we're required on the level of as a city of Yelm to be involved. beings were already involved in the level that we're all members of Thurston County. I guess I'm looking for a little clarity on that, Councilmember DePinto.
And I'll let him respond to that as soon as we see if Councilmember Curry has a comment she'd like to make.
Well, I think it's a value added thing. I think it's a small amount of money for $6,000. I am with Joe on this. Let's try and work it out. And I'm with Molly on what she wants with it. And I say go for it. And if it doesn't, then we don't renew next year.
Right, and I will tell you that the money is already in the budget, wasn't removed from the budget for 21. So, Councilmember Penner, you wanted to respond to a couple of those comments, and then Councilmember Carmody.
Sure. For Councilmember Wood's question, what's the value added? Yeah, I get that. It's a valid question. What if we're not in it? What do we get out of it? You know, are we still getting those same services? Yes and no. So you're right that some like the COVID grants, those are going to continue and they won't leave us out of that. But what we do miss is a voice when we're discussing how this money is distributed, how the what types of people get it, what types of businesses, what types of businesses get it. I guess people too with the childcare. But we have a seat at the table. We're actually engaged, and I do make suggestions and comments at these meetings. You know, that would benefit the city of Yelm as well as South Thurston County too, because I think that is an important divide between. You know, not that it's official, but there is a divide between North and South County, some of the bigger cities versus some of the smaller cities. But the other stuff that we lose out on, besides that voice in the seat at the table, is them actually hollering at other businesses for us, attracting new businesses for us. And we haven't seen it lately, but we saw it with Walmart, and we'll see it with whatever businesses that we want to see come in here, whether these are smaller independent businesses, whether it's a big brand, what have you. When that occurs, we will be wanting them.
Councilmember Carmody, then Councilmember Wood.
Sorry. So yeah, I'm okay with continuing with the EDC, but like we've all said, we need to give them direction if we're going to get our value out of it. And rather than putting that on a study session, I'd like to suggest that we put that onto our future retreat agenda, because we have to have a retreat here sometime, guys, because the whole point of the retreat is to review our comprehensive plan and figure out where we want to go as a city. And we can't tell the EDC what we want from them unless we know where we want to go as a city. So let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's figure out what we want Yelm to look like and what our constituents want Yelm to look like before we tell the EDC what we want from them. So I would suggest that we move forward with the EDC for now, and then really work on our vision for Yelm in the future at the retreat, and then we can figure out what we want to tell the EDC to work on.
Councilmember Wood, then Councilmember Blair.
For a couple of questions, we're talking about funding for the EDC next year. And what I assume we're talking about 2021. Okay, but I also thought I heard Councilmember DePinto mention that we had not paid it for 2020. Is that accurate? So in essence, are we discussing paying 2021 and then at the end of the year, which is in a little more than a month, paying 2021 as well?
Well, my understanding is that Mr. Cade said that since we didn't pay in 20, they'll let that kind of slide because of the situation, but they would expect us to pay going in a future relationship. Okay.
Secondly, I'm curious because, and it's an honest question, because I don't know how much involvement the EDC had in Walmart coming here, because it seems to me Walmart, being a large corporation, would be constantly looking and searching for places to that would be most beneficial for them to open up one of their stores.
Yeah, just to answer that, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Wood, I was told that by the Executive Director, Michael Cade. He told me directly that that was one of the reasons that Walmart came to Yelm when it came to Thurston County, was because of the Thurston EDC.
And we can get better clarity on that when we do have the larger discussion. Grant Beck, of course, has been here through the whole process and can give us that history of why the comprehensive plan looks the way it does today, why the zoning in Yelm looks the way it does today from the vision plan from 1990s and council's work moving forward, trying to figure out that always hard to figure out what do we want to look like in 5, 10, and 20 years. Councilmember Blair, thanks for your patience.
Just quick, I'm not sure if it's a comment or a question. So if we pay the $6,000 next year, we still don't even have a vote or a seat at the table?
I'll do it, Joe. We would have the seat at the table if we were to pay the $6,000 for sure. We would ask them.
Okay. From what it
this is to a new board seat.
Yeah, from what it sounded to me like was, oh, you're losing your seat. If you pay next year, then we'll talk about bringing you back on. Honest, like for me, I would want to continue with next year and take that route, go through it. But like Molly said, we need to have this retreat where we sit down and literally have a few hours where we just talk about this. Figure out what the game plan is and what the expectation is with them. And then present that to them, hear what they have to say, hear what they would be able to do as far as what we're expecting. And if it's all kosher, then cool, we move on. If we end up determining that the relationship isn't mutually beneficial, then we make that call. But yeah, I mean, we should probably move forward with next year. There's no reason to just cut ties yet, especially when we need a lot more information than what we're looking at right now.
So I'm seeing consensus from the group through all of these comments that the message that we could deliver back to the EDC through our representative, Councilmember DePino, to the board would be that thank you. We are interested in reestablishing the relationship with you in 21. What would that look like? And then subsequent to this meeting, we'll have another one where the council can start to put together that concept of our future and how the EDC helps us get there. Is that about what does that sum it up for most folks? Little thumbs up or head bob or shake your head? Or...
Just to be clear, for clarity, do you want me to tell them that we do want to continue this relationship as a board member?
Yeah, would you please follow up with Michael Graham before you make that phone call, though? They've also had a conversation in addition to yours. But I think, yeah, that's what we want to do. That's what I'm hearing. Okay, everybody good with that?
Thank you, council.
Fantastic. This is what councils do. It's awesome. So that takes us to old business, which is the 608 resolution regarding the mayor and city council protocol manual. Michael, were you going to give an update on this for us?
Sure, I'll give a short update and hand it off to the General Government Committee if they want to say anything. Really, the material in the document speaks for itself. Following the last conversation that you had, as you may recall, mostly technical changes were made to this document, and it included things like updating the date and the time and the location of the city council meetings, replacing the finance director with the word treasurer, things like that. The biggest change was adding the new first ever established mission, vision, and value statement for the city, which is something that we did as part of the budget process together, and cleaned up old language and headings. Even fixed this version fixes the fax machine reference that Councilmember Carmody caught at the last time at her last read through of this, and clears up some of the proclamation verbiage of making sure that it's clear that council can issue proclamations as can the mayor. So all of those changes are reflected here in track changes as well as in a final version. With that, I'll leave it to the General Government Committee and be able to answer any questions. But this is updated, ready for you to take action on formally, which you requested, and sign off and have as you like to use it as a resource and a reference going forward. Now that it has been updated and is accurate.
So do we have comment from Government Committee? Councilmember Blair.
Well, if the committee wants to go first, I can wait.
Okay. So, Pat, Tracy?
I don't have anything to add. It's super simple, procedural things or updates, I don't really have anything. It's pretty cut and dried.
I also have nothing to add, but I'd be willing to answer any questions that I might be able to if any of the council has any comments, questions, concerns.
I see a hand up with Molly under it. Molly's hand.
Yeah, we talked about this last night at the finance committee meeting, and you know what, I cannot remember, you guys, what this schedule is for switching our subcommittees out. I think it's every year, but you know, Terry and James just got onto finance committee this year, and they feel like they're brand new to it still. I just got onto public works this year. I feel like I'm brand new to it still. You know, between the three of us on finance, you know, I can't speak for James or Terry, but I know that all three of us expressed a desire to have these appointments either last for our entire term. So like I would be on public works for 4 years for my whole term. And you know, and then switch out, you know, if we got reelected or whatever. But it's just so hard to switch every year and get a whole new learning curve going. So I was wondering, is that in the protocol manual, or
No,
should we put it in there, or what, you know?
as is, I looked through and scoured every page for that kind of detail, and that kind of minutia and specificity isn't in there. But what it does do is it refers to the appendix, which has the council committees and assignments and things like that. And I remember that when you were first talking about this earlier this year, that was something that you wanted to revisit at your retreat, which obviously pandemic didn't happen. And so I would suggest that maybe we make that appendix and how that's determined an item for your retreat, like you talked about earlier. It doesn't change anything in the document that's before you, but whatever you determine on the council committees, assignments, years, rotations, all that stuff, that's something that we could add into the appendix and be part of this living document going forward.
Great. Okay, well, if there's no other questions or concerns, it is an action item for you to approve resolution number 608.
I move we approve resolution number 608. This is Council Member Tracy Wood.
I second that. This is Council Member EJ Curry.
Are there any other questions, discussion? I'll call for the aye votes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Are there any nays?
Aye.
One nay from Councilmember DePinto. The rest carries with an aye vote. We now have a new Mayor and City Council Protocol Manual. And I know you've all taken a look at it. Please do take a look at the final copy as it comes out so that you are familiar with some of the minutia changes, as Michael calls them. Some of them are important to what we do as a legislative organization. So thank you. We're now to updates, which we always start with Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, Council again. The most exciting thing that's coming up, aside from the work that you will all soon adopt on the budget going forward, is the Christmas in the Park. There is a web page and a Facebook page and a whole bunch of other information that is soon to be released. Obviously, it's going to be different than it has ever been in years before because of what we're navigating and trying to keep everyone healthy. But, you know, really hats off to the subgroup of people on that Parks Agency Committee and businesses that are coming together to figure out how to do it in a collaborative and innovative and safe way. You've got the Public Works team doing lights in the park and a self-guided walk, the menorah lighting, the gingerbread contest. There's going to be selfie spots at different businesses. So it's something new, maintains our tradition, but it's going to be done in new and exciting and safe ways. So just please stay tuned for the details that will be coming out here in the next couple of weeks. With regard to just the big rocks, obviously the budget is keeping myself and all the department heads busy. We're getting started on the work of the Habitat Conservation Plan, which is really important for economic development. I'm still working to finalize the CARES Act submittal, which is being done in every spare moment of my time, which is not too often. And other than that, I'll just give you the highlights of the next couple of meetings. Just a reminder. So at the study session, we'll be talking about legislative agenda. I'll be pulling together that as a framework draft for you to consider and talk. Don't need to take action on, but it'll be good to get feedback at the study session, get your ideas, and then we'll tee that up for an action item at the December 8th meeting if that's what you all desire. But look for a draft, and I'll email that out to you in advance of the study session, and look forward to your ideas of not only the people that you represent, but the businesses and the issues and the different regional boards that you all serve on. It'll be a great way to pull all those together into one common framework. The other aspect is there will be a Thurston County Animal Control contract that'll be up for consideration on December 8th, at the same time that we look to your consideration and adoption of the budget. So other than that, we had great finance committee meetings and public safety committee meetings, and I'll leave it to the council members to provide updates on those meetings. But they were fantastic and very informative, and appreciate all the council members participating in those. So with that, any questions?
Right. Well, then let's kick it off with Councilmember Blair. Thanks, Michael.
Yay. Well, we pretty much heard everything from Finance Committee, so I don't think any of us will have to go over that one. But I will say that was probably the funnest one I've done so far. And if I remember right, it was like what, 3.5 hours. But that was cool, and like the fact that we were able to hammer out a lot of stuff was refreshing, I guess. But other than that, there was public safety, which kind of went over the lateral hire that's happening and how that was to prepare for the expected retirement this month that I guess isn't happening. But and since one officer was let go, it's still good so that we're on the same par level. And then there's a new reserve officer to replace Rivera, correct? Other than that, I'll let Tracy and Tad go a little more, specifically Tad. But SWAC, or Solid Waste Advisory, that looks like another canceled one. I don't know what's going on there. But that whole flow control ordinance, like I said prior, that wasn't on the timeline I thought it was. That you're not looking at any action on that probably till next spring or summer. So we'll have more info regarding that as it goes on. Other than that, that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Carter. Whoops, I'm sorry, Councilmember Carmody.
Thank you. So Jay, yeah, we've already gone over the finance committee meeting. As far as intercity transit, on Wednesday, we had a full day meeting via Zoom, and we were interviewing new candidates for the community advisory board position. So they're members from the community who actually are on the intercity transit authority. So they're not elected officials or anything like that. They act as community members. But that was really cool. We got to talk to a lot of amazing people who are invested in their community, and it just goes to show that there's a lot of people out there who want to be involved, but not necessarily do the whole elected official thing. So that was really impressive. I hope that the city of Yelm can get a lot of people involved in our commissions. We also authorized the general manager to approve a 1-year contract extension between the union and the intercity transit. I think they're kind of going along the same road that we are. Like, let's just suspend everything out for another year, you guys. We need to reevaluate after that year. So it was pretty straightforward, really interesting to get the interviews done, and that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Curry.
I attended the Veterans Day ceremony at the Yelm City Park on November 11th, and it was really a nice ceremony, even with social distancing and all. And it was really nice. Then that's about it for me.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Stillwell. If there's anything left for you.
Yeah, just a little bit. On Friday, I had a study meeting, which is the South Thurston County Economic Development. It's a 2-hour meeting on Friday mornings, which there's just so much information. But there's a lot of activities that people are trying to do virtually, much like our Christmas in the Park. Everybody's working really hard to just try to make it as normal as they can so they can be in their communities, and lots of great things going on. I just can't say enough about how good it is to be listening to all those people, and everybody's trying their best during this tough time. Tonight we had public safety. Just a couple brief things I want to talk about. The ITT, the I-90 task force that we're trying to become part of, or we've been looking at, made it through legal finally, which has been months and months. And we'll probably see that as a study session coming up, been reviewed. We have 7 applications that have applied for people to be liaisons for the committee for that. And we're still waiting on the tribal grant that we applied for. I spoke about last month for the RAP and some other things. New detective Sparkle was selected as the detective starting in July. And the reason why he's selected now, I'll tell you, it was a really good process. The chief, the staff did a great job. It was really nice to see, really tough. It was really hard. And Sparkle did a lot of extra work going with the sheriff detectives and learning about that position. And our court's still going virtually. People are showing up, I guess, virtually. I can't see why they wouldn't. We have a new hire starting December 15th. I think I spoke about that a little bit last month. And that's all I have notes. See, the joke is that Chief Stansel doesn't think that I can report without my notes.
Thanks, Ted. Councilmember Wood.
I also attended the public safety meeting, and Tad took real good notes. It was a very informative report, and appreciate him not leaving me much there. I also attended the TCOM meeting. We discussed the Lewis County Emergency 911 organization joining forces with us. So we've been discussing this, and we're moving forward on discussions and looking at the positives and the negatives of that potential joining of forces. And we talked about the budget, and that's about all I got for you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember DePitto.
Thank you, Mayor. My EDC meeting's tomorrow. My other committees are next week or so. So the only thing I did was attend along with the mayor and Councilmember Curry the Veterans Day ceremony, and very wonderful, very short, sweet, to the point, which I can always appreciate. And other than that, go Hawks.
All right, Councilmember Kaminsky.
Sounders.
Kraken.
Yes, the finance committee meeting really was 3 hours. I almost thought I was dreaming, but it really was. I attended Thurston Thrives. We had a guest speaker Dr. Chancellor of Kaiser Permanente, and we had a talk about racial equity in the healthcare system. And in the Nisqually River Council, we had a state overview from the Department of Ecology on the shoreline management program. And then my favorite event was yesterday, where I'm on the board of Bounty for Families, and we had a lovely session at the community center with 3D real food. It was not a virtual event. We really loaded 150 meals for families. We fed 900 people, And it was just a great event. Thank you, Mayor Foster, for coming by. And our own Drew came to bring food for the kids. We had several churches, Rainier School District, and all were very appreciative. I wanted to acknowledge Thurston Strong, who granted us $2,500 for this program yesterday. And I was very proud of myself for remembering to donate my $60 to feed a family. But I wanted to acknowledge Steve Klein for pitching in $1,000, Pat Richter, $600, the Yelm Family Medicine Clinic for $600, Jay-Z Knight, $500, First Finishers, $500, and Bill Wyman for $300. Those were our biggest donations. And also wanted to thank La Gitana for donating 3 good pizzas to the cause. And lastly, our fearless and tireless leader, Heidi Smith, who put it all together for us. Thank you very much. That's my report.
Yeah, a high and best use of that community center too, and there was no other facility that could really accommodate them to the health department standards, who actually showed up, ironically, because they want to use the community center for one of their events. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, our community has been stepping up in many ways. There's been so many food delivery opportunities that they actually made a little bit of a traffic issue a couple of times, but Yelm being Yelm, people just worked it out, got around, made it into the parking lot. Things worked themselves out pretty well, so that's nice. Thank you, Terry. So other than, I'm gonna see if I can share this. I don't know if I've given myself share permission. Yeah, you've seen this before. Can you all see the screen I'm sharing with the Eat Local Yelm? So this is something that the chamber put together. It's kind of a fun thing to distribute out. We can print them out for you if you want to give them to people that you talk to. Just gives them a fun way to kind of support our local restaurants that are still doing curbside during the shutdown. Sort of fun. So I appreciate the chamber for doing that. And other than that, we've had so much work going on. We didn't have a whole lot of outside agency interaction, but except for my planning sessions with TRP and so forth. I will mention that we did, council managed to miss a couple of important meetings, the EMS council meeting and the TPB, which got changed on its date, so I can understand why that happens. But remember, folks, if you don't have the ability to make your meeting, please try to use your alternate or call me, and I'll try to zoom in and join that meeting in your stead. Appreciate that. So at this point, we have on the agenda an executive session. Excuse me. I want to let the listening audience, the attendees, and we still have Stephanie and Debbie. Thank you for hanging tough. I hope the kids are enjoying this one, Stephanie. The executive session will be for the purpose of discussing upcoming negotiations, ongoing negotiations with our union, and we have it scheduled for 30 minutes. However, when we come back, it will only be to adjourn because there are no action items before the council after the executive session. So attendees, feel free to go about your business or hang out, and we'll come back to say goodnight to you when we're done. So council, you should have all received a separate email from Lori that gives you the link to the Zoom meeting. So exit this one, zoom into the executive session, and then we'll reverse that process to come back into session to adjourn.
Happy Thanksgiving. Sorry.
That's fine.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
See you on the other side.